Laura here from Get Organized HQ, and one of the things that I talk about a lot is decluttering and how important that is. And let me tell you, one thing that makes decluttering more fun and that can motivate you to do it is if you literally get paid to declutter. Who doesn't want to do that? And recently, I have really made a lot of progress in selling the stuff that I've decluttered and actually making real money with that, and I want to share that with you so that you can first of all decide if your stuff you should sell it, and give you some actual tips on how you can effectively sell things. And we have sold basically in the past probably 6 to 8 weeks, I bet we've sold at least 50, if not closer to 100 items that have sold well and made some money. So I'm going to take everything that we've learned by working on this and share it with you here. Now, before I get to the step-by-step of actually how to sell your items, we should first discuss whether or not trying to sell your clutter is actually the right choice for you. Because it is not true that everyone should always try to sell and make money from everything they're decluttering. That is not the case. Instead, what I want you to do is think about your own personal situation, because I don't care who you are and how you do it, selling the items that you've decluttered is going to take some extra time and some extra effort. And what I don't want to have happen is for you to end up stalling your decluttering process because you wanted to make $12 extra. So I want you to really ask, is it worth it for me? And I think as you go throughout this video and watch it, you will start to get a sense for what you could sell, how much work it's going to be, and how much money you could make, and that'll help you make a better decision about whether or not selling your stuff is actually right for you. I would say that if you are really feeling overwhelmed right now and just think that adding another thing to your to-do list of like taking pictures of an item and listing it online and answering people's questions and all that, if that sounds really overwhelming, then you could consider just donating your items to Goodwill, especially if you don't feel like you have items that are really super valuable and worth a lot of money. It just may not be worth it. On the flip side, however, what I have found is that making money from what I've decluttered is quite motivational. I am way more excited to get rid of these like 3 bins if I think they might bring me $10 than if I was just like, oh, well, I guess I could, do whatever with them, pass them along. So it can be really motivational as you start making some money and seeing some progress and like literally getting some cash in your pocket. So just really think about whether or not it's right for you. Once you've determined if you should sell things, the next question becomes where, how and where do I sell my stuff? And there's a lot of options out there. I mean, you could do like consignment stores, consignment sales and things like that. You could try to have a garage sale. You could try to do eBay and online selling, or you could use Facebook Marketplace. And essentially for most items, maybe not every single item that there is, but for the vast majority of your everyday clutter, I recommend Facebook Marketplace. First of all, a garage sale is probably going to bring in less money than Facebook Marketplace and be, I think, probably maybe even more work actually, because you're going to save a lot of stuff. You're going to have to price all the stuff, so it's quite a bit of work. Also, what I don't love about a garage sale is you have to, you can't get it out of your house right now. You've got to plan for it, and maybe it'll happen this summer. It's the middle of winter, let's say, and you can't really have a garage sale until the summer, so you have to hold on to those things for a while before you let them go. Versus if you sell in another manner, you can go ahead and do it, very soon after you declutter the items. So that's why I wouldn't really recommend a garage sale for most people. Consignment tends to be very limited in what you can sell. And again, if you have something very designer or something, that might make sense, and it can take a while. So I'm not necessarily a fan of that. Another common method would be like selling online on eBay or something like that. I would reserve that for like highly sought after collectibles, where the advantage of doing that is you get a nationwide or even a worldwide pool of people that can purchase it. But if the items are bulky, expensive to ship, not that valuable, then you don't need that. You just want to stick with your local community on Facebook Marketplace. And so that's why I recommend for the majority of things, I would use Facebook Marketplace, and that's what we have used to sell all but one item that I'll share with you why we didn't choose to sell it on Facebook Marketplace in a little bit. So first, you're gonna need to choose what of the items you've decluttered to sell. Now, not everything sells well, like just sells at all. So it is not worth your time to list something that is just not gonna sell and not gonna be worth it. So examples of things that sell well are things that people specifically search for. The more specific, the better. So if people, for example, an item that people search for a lot is KitchenAid mixers. I mean, they're not even just searching for like stand mixers. They're often searching for KitchenAid stand mixer. It's a big purchase, and they know that they last a while, so they could probably save a lot of money by buying a used one. Or let's say, for example, when it comes to books, very few people are going onto Facebook Marketplace and just searching for books. But instead, they're going onto Facebook Marketplace and specifically searching for a type of book. For example, I have Usborne. The company is now rebranded to a Paper Pie, I believe. But they're Usborne books. These are very specific books. They were in very good condition. And people are going to specifically type in the search bar Usborne books for kids. And so the more specifically this item could be searched for, the better. Even when it comes to containers, I have a lot of containers that I've decluttered. I actually buy more than the average person just so I can review them for you all. So I have a lot. And what I found with those is brand name containers sell a lot better than off-brand containers. So like OXO containers, the Home Edit containers sell really well. Versus even if I had a similar container that was just as good, but it didn't really have a brand name, it was just like, Walmart's brand or Target's brand or whatever, nobody's actively searching for those. And so they don't sell nearly as well. So some things that don't sell very well, I believe, are, first of all, dishes. I did list a set of dishes. I didn't think it would sell. It did not sell, spoiler alert. So those are gonna go ahead and be donated because there's nothing special about them. Nobody's specifically searching. Things that are really easy to get, things like that. Other items that don't sell well are just generic books. Those are just so easy to get anywhere. Like really popular novels. People can go to the library, they can go all over the place, they can go to half-price books. So those types of things, magazines usually don't sell well unless they're possibly like a collector's item. Things like that, really generic things like pencils, crayons, notepads, things like that, sticky notes, like all those kind of things. I wouldn't even bother listing them. Clothing, if you're going to sell clothing, first of all, obviously brand names are going to do better than generic clothing, and kids clothing is going to do a lot better than adult clothing. This is really true across the board, whether it's Facebook Marketplace or garage sales. And if you are going to sell, go ahead and put it in a lot of clothing. Like I've seen kids clothing where it's like size 18 months, girls clothes, a bunch of dresses or something. But again, those are going to sell for a lot less than you paid for them. Now, if you have items and you're like, I wonder if this would sell well, let us know in the comments what you're thinking about selling it. And we can at least give you our opinion on how well we think that item would sell, and others can weigh in. Maybe somebody else, they're like, yeah, I sold that item really well, or I listed it and never sold. So maybe you can get some feedback that way. Next, once you've identified what's worth selling and what you just need to donate, then when it comes to selling, you're gonna wanna group like items together. So things often sell well and most efficiently in lots of items. So for example, if I have 10 OXO containers, I am not gonna sell those individually for a lot of reasons. First of all, most people don't wanna buy just one. Secondly, that is a lot of overhead and trouble to list each one individually and coordinate with 10 different people to come get them. Instead, I'm gonna put them all together, and they're actually gonna sell better that way because they're a good value. And so we're gonna group our like items together. So, all the pantry containers together, all the size 18 months girls clothing is gonna go together. I even sold something I was shocked that actually sold was a grouping of candles. I think if it had one smell good candle, they weren't used, they were just scents that I didn't care about. It probably wouldn't have sold, but they were not used and they were a grouping of them and they actually did sell. Hobby related items, again, my mom is into sewing, so she's sold a lot of fabrics. Like when I don't mean a lot, but I mean putting them together as a lot, a grouping of fabrics. She's sold grouping of threads. So things like that will do well together. Next, when you go to list the item, you're gonna wanna take photos, good photos of the item. Now, when I say good photos, I don't mean artistic. I don't care if there's anything in the background. They need to be well lit with a decent quality phone. Now, most iPhones are going to be sufficiently good quality. I would take it outside if you can on like a white poster board, and you just want a very clear photo. And depending on what the item is, you may want from multiple angles. Like think if I was going to buy that item, I would want to see the item from different angles. If there are any particular flaws with the item, go ahead and take a picture of that flaw. So if you're like, it has a scuff mark on it that won't come out, have a photo of it so that they can see what that is. So good photos are really important. Also, do include a photo. Don't list something without a photo. Nobody's gonna buy that. When you're photographing items, if the item is new, indicate that. So if it still has a tag on it, make sure you take a picture to really indicate this is brand new. It still has a tag on it. Or if it comes in the original box, take a picture in the original box. And I find that even if the item isn't new, if I still have the original box, I'm gonna take a picture of it with the box because that just indicates to someone that you took even more care, like you still had the box. And so it feels more like an official item, even though it's not necessarily brand new. So make sure you include those items in the photos. All right, now that you have pictures, you're gonna need to decide how much to price your items when you list them. This is super duper important, okay? Because first of all, if you could get a lot more money for something, why would you price it too low? But the flip side and the more likely scenario is you price them too high and nobody wants them. So you want to price them correctly. So I tend to go really low. So you are not going to get anywhere close to what you paid for the item. So a lot of people think, okay, let's say I have these 10 OXO containers. They were roughly $10 per container. They're probably a little bit more, but let's say that they were 10 per. That's $100. So you might think, okay, they're not gonna pay the same, so $70. Oh no, that's way too much. It's not even 50%. It's more like 10 to 20% of what I paid for them I would get. So if I had a lot of 10 OXO containers, $20 maybe. I would not do anywhere close to what I paid for them because they're getting them secondhand on Facebook Marketplace. It's not that hard for them to go to the store and get them. They have to go through extra effort to acquire that item. So nobody is gonna wanna pay anywhere close to what you originally paid for the item. And it really doesn't matter how valuable you think the item is. All that matters is what the market will actually pay for the item. So also when you price on the low end, like if, let's say that there are actually several people selling a set of OXO containers in my local area, I want to be one of the lower priced ones, not one of the higher priced ones, because what's going to happen? They're going to choose mine and they're going to go fast. And you want your stuff to go fast. You don't want to drag it out and take 4 weeks to get rid of it. You want it to go fast. So price it to go fast. I mean, worst case, you were just going to donate it and have $0. So $10 is better than $0. So you're not trying to get rich off of this. And you're also not trying to maximize the most amount of money you could possibly get. You wanted to get rid of your clutter. And if you can earn a few extra dollars in the process, fantastic. But price those things pretty low. Also, you can look at what other people are selling. It's very easy to go on Facebook Marketplace and look, okay, what are others in my area selling for? That'll give you some idea. Try to go a little bit lower than those. You could also look at eBay, see what things have sold for on there to get some rough idea if you're really not sure how to price your item. In addition to that, you will know that you priced it right if you put it up there, it gets some inquiries, and it gets sold within a few days. You have priced it too high if you put it on there and it doesn't get hardly any views, nobody asks about it, and obviously no one buys it. On the other hand, if you have priced it too low, again, nothing wrong with that, you'll still get rid of it and make some money, but you could have sold it for more if you get bajillions of inquiries within, like, people asking about it within, a few minutes, and if you have multiple people offering to buy it, if you have more of that item, you can probably sell it for more. An example of this is my mom had some sewing thread. I think it might have been some kind of specialty thread. Not really into sewing, but she had this whole grouping of thread that she had, and it was partially used, like some parts of, so it wasn't like brand new thread. And I think she priced it for $20. And I mean, she said within minutes, she had tons of people writing and asking about it. She had multiple people who wanted to buy it. So that let her see that she could have priced it higher. And she actually had 2 or 3 more batches of this thread. So the next time she priced it significantly higher and was able to get more money out of it. Then you'll want to write a good description of your item. This does not need to be long or flowery. This is purely informative. So this is just to give people information about the product. So ask yourself, what would I want to know when I'm buying the product? So a brief description of what the product is. Also, keep in mind that people search on Facebook Marketplace. So make sure that you would include terms they might be searching for. For example, if you had a cast iron skillet, I wouldn't just say skillet, I would say cast iron skillet. I would give the size 12 inch because somebody might specifically want a 12 inch. So you're going to give these descriptions both to inform people and to help it get found in search. And then you also want to describe the condition of the item. I've seen listings where nobody said whether it was new or used or whatever, and that didn't help me. So if it's brand new, say brand new, never been used. If it's gently used or very used. If there are any defects or anything wrong with it, you want to put that right up front in the description and have a photo of it if possible. It will not do you one bit of good to pretend like the item is fine, to neglect to mention the flaw, and then when someone comes to get it, they're going to notice the flaw. You just say that right up front, and people understand on Facebook Marketplace that you are selling all sorts of things. So just be upfront about it if it's something that, yes, it's still usable, but it has a scuff or a flaw, or this cast iron is in really bad condition, but I've seen people do amazing things with that. It can be restored. So just be upfront and honest about that. So that's what you want to do in your description. Now, once you have listed the item, that means you took the picture, you put it on Facebook Marketplace with the description, then you want to be prepared to answer questions. People are going to ask a lot of questions. So you want to just set aside some time and know that you're going to need to be responding to questions. A lot of times people will state in the listing that they don't respond, is this still available? Take it down when it's not available. You don't even have to bother answering all the people. Now, if it were still available, I would say yes, but if it's not, I'm not going to go back and answer all those and tell them no. I mean, I took it down, so that's how I would handle those. You are probably going to get questions about things you say in the description, and you're going to be like, somebody's like, does it have this or does it do this? And you literally said that, or what condition? You literally said that, okay? That's okay, just answer them. And a lot of times I think what people want is to know that there's a real human responding. Because I think one of the things that happens on Facebook Marketplace is people put stuff up there and they never look at it again. And so then people get tired. The buyer gets tired of having to inquire or whatever, and it's not really there anymore. So I think they just want some kind of interaction. So don't get annoyed when people are going to ask the most basic questions that you put in the listing. That's okay, just answer them. And answering quickly really does make a difference because that person is going to feel really confident. You're really responsive. It makes you look more responsible. And also, if they're searching for an item and you respond quickly, then they might choose you over someone who's taking longer to respond. So I'll make sure that you have some time set aside to be answering people's questions. They're also going to try to haggle with you, many of them. Will you take $10 instead of $15? Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. That's fine. I have no problem accepting, if somebody wants to give me $10 and I just want to get rid of it, that's fine. But use your judgment on that, but be prepared for all of those questions. This next part is probably the most, shall I say, controversial thing that I'm going to suggest here, but this is, I consider, a very game-changing way to approach it. All right, so instead of having to, for example, a lot of people want to meet somebody at a location and meet them with the item and then do the exchange. You take the money, you give them the item. Can you imagine how much time that would take? Like I said, we've sold 50 plus items in the last few weeks. And so that would have just been so much time going somewhere to meet them. And here's the other thing. You're going to have a ton of no-shows. Don't get discouraged. People will be like, yeah, I'm coming at 5 p.m. and then they just don't show up. That's very normal. So then it's really frustrating if you went out of your way to go somewhere to meet someone, to give them the item, and then they don't show up. And then you have to do it again and again. So instead, we do porch pickups. So we just leave it out on our porch and we tell the person, we usually put a note that says who it's for, like for so-and-so. And then we tell them where to leave the money and they take the item. It works great. That way, we just know when they message us, we put it out there, we put their name on it. Sometimes there's more than one out there because we're selling a lot of things. That's fine. They pick up their item and they leave the money where we specify. And, I wouldn't leave it just like out in plain sight. You would have like a jar or something, put it under, something like that. They always bring cash. And that's how we do it. Now, you might be thinking, well, what if they steal it? Like, couldn't they just take it? Yes, they could. Oh well. I was gonna donate it anyway, and I'm only putting the smaller items. For really big, expensive items, I wouldn't do this. Like we've sold, I think, a sewing machine and the person came in and that was more expensive. That was a little bit different. But for most of the smaller items, I really don't care if they want it that bad, they can just have it. I'm not really out that much if they didn't leave the $10 under the mat or whatever. And by the way, again, we've done many of these. We've never actually had that happen. Most people are honest and trustworthy and aren't wanting to take advantage of you. And if they do, oh well. So also you might think, well, do random people come and steal the items? I mean, I suppose they could, but no, these are not items that are highly sought over. I mean, a thief is not going to want 10 OXO containers. They're just not. They're not going to be able to resell those very well. So I can't imagine, now again, if it does happen, it's not the end of the world. You were going to donate it anyway, but it really hasn't happened to us. They're more likely to even take an unopened package, I think, than just like these very random items, like a few candles or something. And so that is what has worked out well for us and made the process a lot easier. Another important thing is that we have a first come, first serve policy. So whoever comes first gets it. We're not doing this thing where somebody is like, oh, well, hold on to it for me. I can come in 2 days. That is way too much to keep track of. I mean, when you're selling a lot of items, it's just like you literally are going to need to create this like complicated spreadsheet just to keep track of it all. Also, people will say that. They will beg. I mean, they'll be like, oh, I want this so bad. My granddaughter has dreamed of this her entire life and I can't come for 2 days. Will you save it for me? And then they don't show up. And you're like, well, what was this whole big story about? Whatever. And so it's just a first come, first serve. And you tell people that. You're like, hey, it's going to go to the first person who gets here. And that way you're just not managing all of that and you're not misleading them. You're not telling anyone, oh, I'm going to save this for you or whatever. You're just like, hey, and I mean, if someone else messages, you're like, oh, I've got so-and-so said they were coming at around this time. So you're free to come if you want, but it's already been, we have someone coming to get it. So that way you're just not having to manage all that because that is a lot to manage and it's not worth it for $10 item. Maybe if you were selling something expensive, it could be, but for the smaller items, it's just not worth it. And this is going to get them moving quickly. Now, if you have an item that sits there and doesn't sell after certainly a week, but maybe even 4 or 5 days, a couple things. First of all, it could just be like, for example, with my dishes, I was just putting them on there. Well, maybe, just kind of hopeful, but I didn't think they would sell. So we just went ahead and donated those. We're not going to try to sell them again or anything like that. Sometimes you'll have an item that you are pretty sure is going to sell. Like, it's brand name, it's valuable. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the listing down and then in a couple days, put it right back up, change one little thing about it, like something in the description or something in the title, and it's going to show up on Marketplace as a new listing. And it's more likely to be found that way. I would do that 2 or 3 times. And then if it doesn't sell, you could even consider lowering the price if you thought it was on the higher end, maybe when you list it again. And then if it doesn't sell, I would go ahead and donate it. But it is worth, if you really think it's going to sell, it is worth listing at least 1 or 2 more times. All right, now I thought it would be fun to share some of our own stories of things we've sold and give you some examples just to get you thinking. So, and I also wanted to share the one example of where I did not actually sell the item on Facebook Marketplace and sold it somewhere else. I told you I was going to tell you about the time when I had better luck selling something not on Marketplace. And that was when I had a lot of probably 6 or 7 cookbooks. They were all recent, published within the last 3 to 4 years, and all in like excellent condition, like you would buy them at the bookstore condition, like not used and things like that. And we tried to sell them on Facebook Marketplace and there was just almost no interest. Like it had very low views. Nobody was asking questions. So we knew, oh, it's probably not going to sell. We took the stack to Half Price Books and we did get like $20 for those. Now, I've been to Half Price Books many times with huge amounts of books and not like 8 times more books than those and only gotten like less money than that. So when it comes to Half Price Books, which is if nothing else, if you have books and there's not another better way to sell them, which is true for most books, I would go ahead and take them to Half Price because getting $5 for 50 books is better than $0. But again, it really depends on how recent the book is. Things like cookbooks that are like better print quality. I mean, these are cookbooks that had like photos for every single one, or like coffee table books are often going to do better than like just a paperback with a very common novel or something like that. But that is one exception where I did take those to Half Price Books. Then I thought it would be fun to give you a few examples of some items that we have sold recently and how much they sold for. so you can just get an idea of what things you might want to sell. So I'm just going to go ahead and show the photos and the amount that they sold for here on the screen. So we had a lot of home edit storage containers. We had a Fisker's cutting mat that you use for like sewing and things like that. A nice thread collection, a used KitchenAid mixer, some Stanley tumblers. Again, note that those are brand name. Non-Stanleys would not sell as well. Some embroidery designs. We sold an actual couch. Furniture actually does sell pretty well. And the people, come get it for you. A stationary recumbent bike. We sold some really cute but used kids camping chairs. We sold an actual sewing machine. Now for that one, the people did come in and look at it. We didn't leave that on the porch. We sold a Captain America costume. Note that that was a specific type of costume that people might be searching for. We sold a cast iron skillet. Again, that's something that lasts for years and years. We sold some home edit tiered shelves. Again, if this had just been any kind of tiered shelf, it wouldn't have sold as well as the home edit brand of tiered shelves. We sold a nice expensive water purifier. Note that this thing originally was $80. We sold some lawn chairs. We sold an air fryer that's a known brand that's very pretty. Small appliances do tend to do pretty well on Facebook Marketplace. So that's just a small sampling. We've sold a lot more than this, but I just kind of wanted to give you an overall sample so you could just kind of have some kind of idea of what we have sold and what we've actually brought in for these items. Note that we live in the Midwest. We're in the Indianapolis area. So some things could vary, of course, by region. They could also vary a little bit by the more populated of an area you live in, the easier this is going to be. If you live out in the middle of nowhere, you may not be able to do this. We do not live in downtown though. We live in a suburb. So I would say it's moderately populated, and that seems to be plenty of people to be able to sell these items. Let me know in the comments if you have had success selling things, or maybe you haven't had as much success. Let me know, and let us know if there's items you're trying to decide if it's worth it. Let us know in the comments, and we can kind of help weigh in on whether or not that's worth it. Now, if you want some help on deciding what items you should declutter that might be good candidates to sell, then I would recommend that you go ahead and watch my decluttering playlist. I have loads of videos to help give examples of things you can declutter, help you answer whether or not you should keep something or declutter it. So go ahead and click the link below and check out my decluttering playlist.